Spoiled behavior in cats is often misunderstood as simple affection, comfort, or personality, but the content explains that it is usually the result of psychological conditioning created through constant accommodation by humans. Cats naturally depend on predictability and territorial stability in order to feel emotionally secure. The location of food bowls, sleeping spots, litter boxes, routines, and pathways through the home all become part of a carefully organized mental map that helps the cat understand the environment. Problems begin when owners repeatedly adjust that environment to satisfy every preference the cat displays without ever allowing small moments of adaptation or frustration. A bowl moved slightly during cleaning, a feeding time delayed by a few minutes, or a temporary change in routine begins to feel emotionally disruptive because the cat has learned through repetition that the world always reorganizes itself around her demands. The content emphasizes that this is not stubbornness or natural temperament alone. It is a learned relationship pattern reinforced over time through human responses. Every moment of unnecessary accommodation quietly teaches the cat that discomfort, waiting, or adjustment should never be required. As a result, tolerance for uncertainty gradually becomes weaker and weaker. Small changes that emotionally healthy cats could adapt to begin triggering stress, vocalization, refusal behaviors, or agitation. The video explains that many owners accidentally confuse love with total accommodation. In reality, constantly removing all frustration from the environment prevents the cat from developing resilience and confidence in handling change. A cat who has never needed to adapt to delayed gratification, altered routines, or minor environmental shifts becomes emotionally fragile because the nervous system never learns that uncertainty can be survived safely. The content repeatedly frames structure and consistency as healthier than endless accommodation. Cats do not require a world where every demand is instantly satisfied in order to feel secure. What they need is predictability, calm leadership, and an environment that remains emotionally understandable even when small changes occur. Gradual adaptation teaches the cat that stability still exists even when conditions are not perfect. Over time, this creates a calmer and more emotionally flexible animal capable of tolerating ordinary life disruptions without experiencing them as serious psychological stress. Cats are extremely observant animals, and one of the central ideas in the content is that they quickly learn how to shape human behavior through repetition and reinforcement. Many behaviors owners describe as stubborn, manipulative, or strangely intelligent are actually learned strategies that worked successfully in the past. A cat who wakes an owner at 3 in the morning by meowing, scratching at the door, knocking objects off a table, or stepping directly onto the owner's face is not acting randomly. The cat is using methods that previous experience proved effective. Every time the owner gets up, offers food, opens the bedroom door, or gives attention in response, the brain strengthens the connection between the behavior and the reward. Over time, these actions become deeply established routines because the cat learns that persistence changes human behavior reliably. The content emphasizes that cats are highly capable of observing patterns in human reactions and adjusting their own behavior accordingly. What owners often interpret as personality quirks are frequently the result of repeated reinforcement happening over weeks, months, or years. The video also explores how this dynamic can create emotional imbalance inside the relationship. Some cats receive attention entirely on their own terms. They ignore their names when called, avoid interaction when the owner initiates it, but immediately demand attention whenever they choose. When humans consistently respond to every request without maintaining any reciprocal structure, the relationship gradually becomes one-sided. The cat controls when contact begins, when it ends, and how interaction takes place, while the owner becomes passive and reactive. Over time, this weakens mutual communication because the cat learns that responding to human social cues is unnecessary. The content frames this not as independence in a healthy sense, but as asymmetry created through interaction patterns. Healthy relationships require some degree of reciprocity, where both sides influence the social dynamic, rather than only one side controlling it completely. The video repeatedly emphasizes that cats do not become emotionally secure through endless accommodation, They become secure through predictable interactions, calm boundaries, and communication patterns that remain stable over time, instead of constantly shifting in response to emotional demands or persistent behavior. Another important idea in the content is that many behaviors owners describe as spoiled or difficult are actually signs that important instinctual and emotional needs are not being fully satisfied. One major example is rough play directed toward human feet, ankles, or hands. A cat who hides behind furniture, launches at moving legs, bites ankles, or chases feet is often expressing redirected hunting energy rather than aggression or bad personality. Hunting for cats is not simply recreation. It is a deeply wired neurological process connected to focus, stimulation, emotional release, and biological regulation. In natural conditions, cats move through a complete hunting sequence involving searching, stalking, chasing, pouncing, catching, and release of tension afterward. When indoor cats do not experience enough structured play that activates these systems properly, the brain still searches for an outlet. Human movement becomes the substitute target because it is unpredictable, fast, and visually stimulating. The content explains that the real problem often begins when owners accidentally reinforce the behavior by laughing, pulling their feet away dramatically, or turning the attack into a game. In those moments, the cat receives stimulation, excitement, and successful engagement, causing the behavior to strengthen over time. The video also explores another form of unhealthy dependence involving constant attention seeking. Some cats become emotionally unable to tolerate even short periods without direct human focus. They repeatedly interrupt activities, sit on keyboards, block books, demand physical closeness, or become distressed whenever attention shifts elsewhere. While this may appear affectionate, the content frames it as a sign that the cat never developed healthy emotional self-regulation. A cat who depends entirely on constant reassurance often lives with chronic low-level anxiety because calm independence was never practiced or reinforced. Instead of learning that temporary separation from attention is safe and manageable, the cat experiences every withdrawal of focus as emotionally significant. The content emphasizes that healthy attachment is not constant dependence, but emotional stability. Cats need affection and connection, but they also need opportunities to tolerate frustration, regulate themselves calmly, and experience predictable boundaries that allow confidence and resilience to develop naturally over time. Another major idea in the content is that many problematic cat behaviors become stronger because humans unintentionally reinforce them through guilt and emotional overcompensation. Cats are highly observant animals that constantly study patterns in human reactions. Over time, they learn which behaviors reliably produce attention, reassurance, treats, or emotional changes in the people around them. A cat who ignores the owner after an absence, turns away dramatically, vocalizes intensely, or refuses normal interaction is not acting out of human-style revenge. Instead, the cat is using behaviors that previously changed the owner's emotional state in predictable ways. The content explains that many owners respond to these moments with visible guilt, apologetic voices, extra petting, treats, or increased attention. From the cat's perspective, the behavior succeeded. The emotional withdrawal produced a reward. Similar patterns can develop around nighttime demands, persistent vocalization, refusal to eat normally, or inappropriate litter box behavior after stressful events. The cat gradually learns that emotional intensity and persistence influence the environment successfully. The video repeatedly emphasizes that this process is not manipulation in a moral sense. Cats are not planning punishment or acting maliciously. They are simply intelligent animals discovering cause and effect relationships through repetition. The deeper problem is that owners often become emotionally controlled by the cat's reactions. They begin avoiding boundaries because saying no produces guilt or anxiety inside themselves. Over time, this creates a relationship where the cat's emotional responses direct household behavior while the owner becomes increasingly reactive and inconsistent. The content argues that emotionally stable cats do not need constant surrender from humans. They need predictable responses, calm structure, and boundaries that remain consistent regardless of emotional pressure. A confident and emotionally regulated owner creates more security for the cat than endless accommodation ever could. In feline psychology, stability and predictability reduce anxiety far more effectively than constant emotional reassurance or guilt-driven responses. The final idea in the content is that emotionally healthy cats do not need endless accommodation or constant agreement in order to feel loved and secure. In fact, the video argues that cats become calmer, more stable, and more confident when they live in an environment shaped by predictable structure and calm boundaries. Research discussed throughout the content suggests that cats rely heavily on consistency because predictable environments reduce uncertainty and nervous system stress. A cat feels safest not when every demand is instantly satisfied, but when the human responses around her remain emotionally stable and understandable. Clear feeding routines, calm refusals, steady reactions, and consistent expectations create a world the cat can mentally organize and trust. The content emphasizes that boundaries are not acts of rejection or emotional coldness. In feline psychology, boundaries communicate reliability. A human who responds consistently instead of emotionally reacting to every vocalization or demand becomes psychologically easier for the cat to understand. This predictability lowers anxiety because the environment stops feeling chaotic or unstable. Ultimately, the video frames structure as a deep form of emotional safety rather than strictness. Cats do not need a perfect world built entirely around their preferences. They need a calm, regulated, and dependable relationship that teaches them they can safely tolerate ordinary frustration, small changes, and moments where the answer is simply no.